Hello everyone, this is Rise of the Phoenix, and in this video I'm going to share my opinion on how you should be spending your ring points in the early game in Lord of the Rings Rise to War. I figured that this would be a good time to make this video because Season 2 is right around the corner. I'm sure there are still new players joining the game as well as players starting over on newer servers. I will say that there may be some ring changes coming in Season 2, so hopefully this video is still applicable then. If not, hopefully it can still help out some people that are just getting into the game or starting over on a new server. This is the skill build that I used to achieve rank 1 on my current server. I'm currently rank 2, but if we do some quick math here, I have 10 forts due to having been doing PvP for like the past week. Need the forts to protect our territories. So if I dropped all 10 of those, picked up 200 plus power tiles, which are very easy for me to take at this point, it's 2,000 extra power at least. 38,000 plus 2,000 is more than 39,000. So let's get right into the actual ring points themselves. So the very beginning, you're going to put your first point into dominance, and then you're going to take dominance every single time you can take it, which is at level 1, level 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 90, and 110. We're just talking about the early game, so make sure every 10 levels and at level 5, you pick up dominance. You'll put your second ring point into abundant power. Just put 1 point in there for now, because at ring level 5, you'll put 1 point into dominance, and then you'll put the few points that you have saved into experience. I think experience is probably the best thing that you can invest in for a very long time at least, because levels make your commanders much more powerful, and having more levels quicker means you're going to be able to take better tiles earlier, and that just gets the snowball rolling. Next up, I always take powerful sweeping. This ability is insane. It says damage dealt against stationary armies plus 10%. You would think, based on the name Powerful Sweeping, that it applies to mobs that you sweep, but it doesn't. It actually doesn't apply to mobs you sweep at all. It applies to any armies that are guarding a tile or a control point, any kind of NPC defender army this applies to. This gives your entire army, including your commander, a 10% damage boost, which is super awesome for when you're going to be grinding tons and tons and tons of tiles. Then I shoot all the way over here to control, and once you've put 1 point in control and 1 point in stamina, you can actually respec your ring so that it drops abundant alacrity and quick order. It's a little kind of micromanagement that you can do to save yourself 2 points. If you don't feel like respecing, you can leave those 2 points there, but it does help out just a little bit of extra. This is because when you reset your ring, you do keep some skills. Those skills happen to be the 4 skills that are behind quick order. The reason that you take control is it increases your max ability points by 10. Actually, that's not the reason you take it, because you should never be at max ability points. You take it because in addition to increasing your ability points, it reduces the amount of time it takes for them to refresh. For some reason it doesn't say this, but it does do that. Control is very important because in the early game you're going to want to be gathering all the time. If you're a highly active player that's pushing for a high rank, you're going to be strapped for resources for a very long time. And so you want to be using all of these points to gather. It also is nice once you start engaging in PvP. It means you can long march a little bit more often if you need to. Then I come back to finish out abundant power. Around this time, my commanders have enough skill points and levels and gear that they start doing pretty reasonable and respectable damage. Abundant power just takes that to the next level. It also helps clear tiles, because as your commander's doing more damage, they're going to be killing more and you're going to be losing less units. Next up, I came over to Harvest, and I think I put a couple points into Levy, but I think Harvest is more flexible. That's one I would recommend. If you want to put points into Levy because you have to think about things less, that's fine too. These just help you shore up the weakness of your lack of resources. I liked Harvest because it let me go to whatever tile that had the resource that I wanted, could harvest it, get bonus resources. Once you're into the 130s, 150s, 200 plus tiles, it gives you a really sizable amount of resources per use. Another option is you could come over to Stamina. This would be better if you are more of a casual player that's going to have your commanders capped out at 120 stamina. If you're a highly active player, you should probably already be keeping all of your commanders not maxed on stamina, at least your primary commanders. Your secondary guys are probably going to be maxed on stamina, but that's whatever, it doesn't really matter. Unlike Control, I've tested this. This does not make you regenerate stamina quicker. I was kind of hoping it did. It doesn't. However, it's still really nice to have for PvP because let's say you have 3 commanders at full stamina, which if you have 10 of 10 in stamina, that's 150. And they have 3 commanders at full stamina without the stamina ability. Your commanders get to take 7.5 actions. So they'll spend 140 stamina and they'll have 10 left, which means in 30 minutes they get their 10 more stamina. Now they have 20, they can go again. And they will only be able to take 6 actions. So you are like an action and a half ahead of them. It's also pretty nice in the early game when siege damage is low for helping your faction take control points, because that's an extra attack and a half against the control point on each of your armies. And then we get towards the more mid-game type question that I've heard a lot of people ask me is, when do you respec into the mock battle abilities? And my answer to this is whenever you take a 200 plus tile. I think mock battling is absolutely not worth it until you have at least a 200 tile, because like this makes you do more damage, makes it easier to take tiles. This makes you do more damage, makes it easier to take tiles. If you have focus commanders, this makes you do more damage, makes it easier to take tiles. Speed helps your army get around places, but more importantly, it helps you go first in rounds of battle, which is very, very important. So once you have your 200 plus tile, in my opinion, that's the point where the EXP per stamina and ring point spent reaches that break point where it becomes worthwhile. What I will say is, in general, you want to take advantage of the fact that you can reset your ring point once every 24 hours. So if you know that you're going to be engaging in PvP, you can spec your ring for that. Make sure you have as many damage abilities as possible, potentially extra forts, fortress, march speed, and all that good stuff. And then let's say your faction declares war, you go to war, you fight, you have fun, you kill a bunch of dudes because you're awesome. And then you come home after the war declaration ends. There's a 2-day downtime before the next declaration where neither faction can really get much done because they can't do any siege damage to each other. At that point, you could then spec back into your mock battle, grind up some commanders. So yeah, my best advice, try your best not to mock battle until you have a really nice tile if you're an active player. If you're a more casual player, your commander is going to be maxed out on stamina, you're not going to be able to flip tiles and take new tiles constantly, you're going to be maxed out on resources constantly, so you don't really need to harvest and that kind of thing. At that point, I suppose you could take it to grind up your commanders when you're offline. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something useful. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a comment down below, liking, and/or subscribing to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.